everybody, welcome to Beyond the Lines. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and today I'm working in the Outlander coloring book again. I'm moving forward with my page here. I did add quite a bit of color, and I show you how I create patches of a similar color but still keep them interesting. What kind of techniques I use with markers to have a rather simple and quite fast way of working on things, how to add texture or keep texture that comes with line work when it comes to coloring. And I show you how I shade, how I keep interest and make like this dove tower here, make it look kind of round, how I work with colors there. I'm very sorry, I seemed to have not started my correct audio equipment, like my good audio equipment, so audio comes from the camera up above while I'm filming. I try to have the audio sound as good as I can in post-production, but I just filmed and I saw, you didn't start the audio equipment. So I'm sorry for that. I will be better in the next video. So take good care and have fun. On to video number 2. Let's do some more midground and foreground coloring. As I said in the opener, this is what I want to do in this video. This is what I want to show you. I'm actually filming right after the first video, so I'm just continuing. I'm still sitting here. And I want to work some more on the background there. And I'm taking a little more of a yellowish green to add a little bit of color here, because I want to get a little warmer with my tones the further I go into the foreground. One of the things to keep in mind when you want to pull something into the foreground, warmer colors, so with a little more of a yellowish tint, they do help pull objects into the foreground. Now I want a little bit of a darker green in there as well. So I'm taking the chromium one that I used on the purple bushes. Just adding a tiny little bit. You see I kept a few of the white speckle spots here that I'm going to cover up, and I'm also going a little bit over the dark, not the dark green, the, what's it called? The yellowish green. Now I'm taking my, this is the olive, permanent green olive, and I'm going right next to the yellow bush, adding a little bit of pigment there. I'm just working my way around the herb garden and add some color. Taking the very dark green here to add in. And then there's a little wooden thing there as well. I think it's just a helper to have certain plants grow, like a trellis or something. So that just gets a, excuse me, a golden green layer of pigment, and I forgot to put my cardstock behind. I don't want any bleed through onto the next page, for which I do have a very special plan already in my mind, so that will be the next video series. Now I come to the point that I talked about in the first video. I do not have any sage green with my Faber-Castell markers, but I can take the Tombow markers and not liquefy the pigment, and that will pretty much broaden my color palette here. I just take them as a dry marker add a little bit of that pigment here. I'm being squiggly with my lines for a reason. I don't want to have these, I'm gonna do that here, I don't want to have these kinds of coloring bits where some of the lines overlap. Would be maybe a little faster to color, but I don't want those lines, so I'm using squiggly random movements of my hand. Well, not so random, I go about it in a way that I don't color over the lines that I don't want to color over, but other than that I'm not being very particular. I'm using the same sage green here, this bush. Oh, there's a feather of the dove. Gotta color that in, otherwise I forget. Or think it's a leaf or something. Sometimes that happens. So when I come across a little detail on a page that I want to have a particular color used on, I usually just do that right away. Because sometimes, depending on what coloring book you're working in and how detailed pages are, you can get lost a tiny little bit. So I'm just taking care of the feather, a little bit of the dark indigo here at the tip. Just a bit. I will come back through this section probably with a little colored pencil, but still I will add a little bit of my chromium green on top here, just to have a little detail in place already. So in case I decide, I will just add colored pencil to my focal point, which is Claire and her dogs and this basket down here and the flowers or herbs she holds in her hand. I do not have to go through every little bit in the midground or partial foreground, that's a term, right? To add a little more depth and, well, interest. Now, moving on to this branch back here, I will start with the brown to color in those twigs, because I want to keep those, not cover them up with any green or something. And then I think I want another of the yellowish green ones, like so, because I think it works perfectly well with the purple behind it. It's a very nice contrast. And even though I want the background to be kind of blended together, because, well, or even the midground, want to keep that blended together in a way. I still want things to stand out, and I want some contrast and not just a big huge green blob that is too similar in tone for all the little bushes and plants and herbs and whatnot that I'm coloring here. So I'm making sure that I do have a little bit of a separation there, but again, not too much, right? So going around that one bigger bush here, this one here, which gets another shade of green, but there's a few flowers that are here in the foreground, but I don't think that they cover up the bush behind them. So I'm going around those flowers with my light green. I will add a little bit of sage to this. So the tumble marker that I just used. I don't want to go too dark, like with this. I don't want the bigger bush here to look exactly the same like this one, because it looks different from the shape of leaves. So I think it is a different kind of a plant, and I want to just have a little bit of a subtle difference between the two plants. Just adding a few random green bits here. I'll need a little more over here. There we go. Now I will move forward to these flowers in the front, and I want the permanent olive green for the leaves. It's a nice juicy dark green. And then I can decide what kind of flower buds, what color they get. I think I will opt for an orange maybe, or a red. But no, not a red, because I do have poppies in here. So I don't want to take that color away. Maybe a sunny orangey yellow would do the trick. Yep, I guess so. Oh, there's another marker that is quite dry. So I will have to replace that very, very soon. Now I can go on to these two bushes here. I want maybe, let's see how brave I can be. That's a little too much for my taste. It's a little too apple greeny. This is quite blue. But maybe I can add a little light purple to it. Yeah, that's not too shabby. It's actually the color I would use for maybe the stalks of the lavender. So let's test that back here. Looks super vibrant. And it almost stands out too much, but I'm gonna tone it down with the N60, which is a neutral gray. It's actually not a purple. I thought I had... No. Let's see. There's the purple. Now I like the gray better. So I'm gonna use gray to go on top of it, tone it down. But not too much, because I still want the green to peek through. Just don't want it to look like Caribbean coral shell, something like that. So there's that. Maybe just a tiny little bit of indigo here and there. Yeah, just a few little bits and pieces. Just to add a little interest. And again, I don't know yet if I want to go over this bit of the coloring page with my color pencils, or if I want to reserve that for the foreground. So there's a little interest, a little pattern, but not too much. Let's see, which brown do I want to use for this? I know I want to go with the golden green for the beehive, but I want this to be separated, so maybe a dark, cool brown. Yeah, that's close enough. And again, I'm going with the pattern that is presented to me by the illustrator, so I'm going in short curved lines here. And I do have a few white specks standing out. I'm gonna show you in a minute why I do that. These parts colored as well. Because what I want to do now is take a lighter shade. This is raw umber. I'm going over the white pieces that I left there, just to, well, add a little bit of a depth there and not have it look too plain. And then I will take my trusty dark indigo. It's a wonderful color. I will add a tiny bit of detail here. On that fence. That's already enough for me for the midground. Hold it, I just saw something. Might add a tiny little bit of the dark green here on the lower end of the leaves of these flowers, just to not have them look plain, because everything around them is shaded with two colors. Maybe a little of the orange glaze for the flower buds, just for the lower section, just to give a little more oomph. And yes, that's a that's a technical term. So I'm gonna move my book a little bit because I want to go to this section, and first of all I want to color the poppies. Which is the better red? Let's see. That would be color-wise a better red, but it is kind of dry. So let's get the scarlet red from the other box. And the other one goes into the trash. Poppies do have a little bit of a yellow center. Some of them do. So I'm just using dark cadmium yellow all around these. And there's poppies over here too. So I'm gonna color them right away. She doesn't have any in her hands, so there's no other poppy anywhere. At least I don't see one. So now I can move on to the scarlet red. Color those petals. Also over here. And there's one. And definitely here. Then I will use my dark indigo for the center. I won't go for black because I think when I add a little colored pencil on top, definitely on the poppies, because I don't have the correct red really. Maybe I go with the no, that's not cadmium. That's plate geranium lake. Go on top of my scarlet red because it looks kind of orangey. And yes, there's orange poppies out there. Of course, I know. But I do want a poppy that is more like a cadmium red. Same goes for this flower petal. And then I just saw that there's another flower here. These are just the buds, but these are poppies to bloom soon. So, oh, there's another one. So let's go over these parts with both of the red tones, without throwing it away, with both of the red tones as well. Okay. Now I can go in and sorry, I need I want the yellowish green, but this one only has a brush tip, and here are some very thin stems of the poppies. So I'm going to use my Tombow marker with the felt tip instead of the brush tip. Same over here. There's maybe one more poppy. So let's give her a stem. Something like that. Next up, these are the same leaves as they are here, so I think they belong to the poppies. So let's color them that lovely yellow-green. And even if they don't belong to the poppies, now they do. Going to add a little bit of the sage green here to the leaves. And maybe the lower part of these stems and such. And then I think I want to go on with, some very light green, no, a dark green to fill in these bits here that I already colored. Just go around that. And I think it would be best to use the chromium green. Hold on. Just saw that I did not color that stem here. Oh, forgot that stem. Sheesh! That's the trouble with tiny little lines. Sometimes you don't really see them very well. So I'm just going around it and fill in the dark green where I think that the bush from behind or something of a similar shade would peek through. And just fill that in. Being very careful that I don't go over the stems of the poppy because I want that light green to be visible. And that looks very much like that. So let's just say it's lavender. Do I have a nice purple, a light purple? Do we have a light indigo? That's more a bluish shade. Do I have... No, that's not my color. So I'm gonna go back to the Tombos, to the purple. So I really like that shade for the underpainting of the lavender. I'm going on top. Ooh, first I'm gonna color myself, and then I'm gonna go on top with a bluish purple. Let's see. Yep, that's not too bad. So a little of that on top. That is purple violet. Just squiggling that in. I'm doing the same over here in a minute. Excuse me. First I want to finish that section here. I'm taking my sage color and I just go around the lavender. This lavender has kind of a, just like sage, a grayish green kind of a color. So I'm going there. Pull it a little lower and also put it here. Then I'm adding is it the chromium green? Yep, chromium green for a few stems and squiggles down here, also here, 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 and for the stems of the lavender. Just breaks up that even blob of sage green. Gonna do the same over here on the lavender. Oh, there's one more. See, you really gotta concentrate and see where is what. Okay. Now for the purple. Adding it mainly to the right hand side, because I want a little of that light violet purple to look through and pretty much give the dark purple the task to shape those flower buds. onto my sage color. Just really going with the lines that the illustrator gave me. Not color too much in between. Because I want to go in with my, what's it called? Oh, chromium green. And also I want to work with the lines the illustrator gave me, not against them. It's always a big thing for me. And then with the dark green, just adding a little bit of a darker shade down here. Also to these leaves, or soon to be flowering lavender bits. And that's enough already. But now I will go on to the beehive. Chosen my greenish gold to have that. Still going with the line work, and I'm leaving a few of the white bits here because I want to bring in the yellow that I used for the midsection of the poppies. And since my green gold here is a little darker than said yellow, I don't want to have it too dark. So I keep the white spots to be able to go over everything, fill up those white areas. That, what's it called? Dark cadmium yellow. Really love this shade. And have a little bit of a highlight or just interest on my beehive. So for the bees, I will take a dark yellow. And just a tiny bit of a dark brown. Or a brown, I should say. It's more of a nude color here. But it's a little easier to color that in with the felt tip of the tombos. So I'm going to use them. Now, let me think. I will take the same color here on top, just to add a tiny little bit. Work with the pattern. And add an extra layer of interest. This would be mid-ground as well, so I will maybe not go over it with colored pencils, or just a tiny little bit. Now, there is the actual hive. What color do I want to give that? First of all, I want to squiggle a bit of the brown on top of the yellow. But I think I just want to go with the cat yellow for now. Not taking care of the wings of the bees for now. I can do that at the end of the coloring process when it comes to the gel marker parts. So I will maybe add a bit there. Going with the pattern here, just feathering in a little bit of that gold green. And as a final step, we'll add a darker line here with the Tombow markers. There's the beehive. Now I can actually take care of the table underneath, and I want to go with the same colors that I used for the fence back here, but I'm going to start with my light tone this time, as opposed to the last bit that I colored with that color combo. So I want the table here to be a little lighter, and then have my darker brown to bring out the pattern of the wood structure. Let's see, this is still something like that, I think, and the rest is covered by plants. This is also a marker that gets really dry already, so I'm going to replace it very, very soon. First, I want to shade it with the dark brown here. shading done. Now I'm going over it again with the light marker, just to not have that pigment lost with the dark brown. All right, shading with the beehive, the entrance of the beehive, that will happen with colored pencils. I can coordinate colors way better there, and I can also, whoops, throw away my markers here, and I can also make sure that I do have more control with the shading. But at this point I would like to color my butterflies. They're all gonna be citrusy yellow and have a gray body, so just going with a cold gray. And I can add a little more light yellow pigment when it comes to colored pencils. This is, by the way, ivory, which I think is more of a yellow than a cream, but that is totally fine. However, I see that there's butterflies down here as well, so I'm just going to color them too. Number 1, number 2. Did I miss one? I don't see any, but maybe I come across one that I missed in the near future. We'll see. Now, let's see. What is the next step? Looking at the clock is the next step. Okay, I'm still good to go. I think I do want to work on the dove house next. Let's see. I think I want the same brick color that I already had, or a similar brick color that I had for the castle. So I'm taking the light warm gray, it's warm gray number 1. It's a little more greenish. So I will probably go over it with that one tan colored Tombow marker. That one here. Just to get some shading going on. We'll add the cool gray number 3 for a couple of stone markings or pebbles or openings here. And maybe I will have to add a little bit of colored pencil to this one. Maybe not, we'll see. For the roof, I actually think I want to go with grays. I don't want a red. a red roof. I think I want to go with gray, so I'm starting with my cool gray number 1. Just giving it a solid layer. And go on top with my cool gray number 3. Just adding a little bit of pigment from the bottom, feathering that in. Because the light comes from the top, so it should be lighter on the top. And then I think I didn't use my other cool gray, number 4. Yeah, got that one. So I'm going to use that for those small bits down here. That doesn't look too shabby. And a little more dark there. And with my mid-gray going over those stones again. Okay. That's not too shabby, I think. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. And I'm doing the same thing that I did with the roof up there. Going to do that with the roof down here. Gotta be careful and go around my dove, because I don't have the upper part colored that's white. And I don't want to get the cool gray in there. There's the light shade. Now comes in the little bit darker color. Since this is a different kind of a shape of a roof, I'm gonna pull in the darker pigment in a different way, so not bottom to top, but left to right and right to left. Because I want to emphasize that curvature of the roof. So let's turn the book a bit, because I need to do the same thing here in that part of the roof. And I want to keep my hand as comfortable as possible on the paper. Need some more of my light gray. And then I go in with the darkest. I'm taking care of that rim here. Same goes for that lower part here. And this also It's shaded because it's really dark underneath the roof. I'm going to very lightly and very carefully add a few lines. Right here. On that side where I think, okay, this is just weathering of the roof, it's a little darker. Maybe a little bit over here as well. Adding a little more of my light gray just to smooth things out a bit. Now I have to check right side up. Yep, that's not too bad. Going on with the stone structure here, I'm not gonna take care of these wooden planks here. I will decide later on, once I have the stone part colored, what exact shade I want those wooden structures to be. Makes it way easier for me to decide later on, okay, this is what I want this to look like. This color would fit well. Currently I'm thinking of a gray shade or maybe a dark brown. The one that I used here maybe, or a combo of the both. I haven't decided yet, so I'm going to leave room for me to decide later on. First I do color the parts that I know what colors and what shades I want to use, and then I can look at what I have put down and decide what would fit best with the colors that I've already used. I think that makes it, that makes it quite easy. It relieves a little bit of stress of like, oh my god, what color am I going to put down and will it fit together with the rest? Just work bit by bit, choose the colors that you are sure of first, and then see what you think fits best with your chosen shades of whatever color. There's maybe a little bit of that purple here. Seems like there's a little bit of that tree, which I did not see beforehand. This is a practical example of what I was talking about earlier. Okay. Not being able to see everything right away, every little minute detail. So I'm going in my brush marker here. Adding a little bit of a shadow underneath that roof. I will do that with a little bit of gray as well. So I use the medium cool gray on the upper part of the roof. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, and I'm also going to color these bricks or tiny little visible stones here with the same gray. Then I'm very carefully going to take the darkest gray, add just a little bit of interest on some of those stones, as well as the entryways for the doves, just darkening things up a bit. And then it's back to that brown. Give this just a little bit of a curvature. On the second part, there's way less shadow from the roof, but there's one from this wooden plank. So I'm feathering that in from both sides and now also from the top. Doing the same with the mid gray, just like before, but I'm also coloring those bricks here, those stones. And the doorways for the doves. And I'm going to add a little bit of that gray here to pull down. A little more squiggly to cover up some of those lines of the tan color. Not that I don't want them, but I just want them a little more natural looking and not those streaky bits, you know, that I had talked about earlier. A little extra detail here on sorry, those bricks. And Excuse me. And of course the doorways. Oh, I forgot that one. I think once I do have that tower completed, I have to start a new video. Because, well, it takes a bit to color all those tiny little details. I want to go all the way brown here above the dove and then start feathering out underneath the bird. Going a little lighter from the left hand side. And then bring in that shade from the bottom, but not too much, just a bit. Moving on to the lighter gray, it's like the number 3, cool gray number 3. Coloring those bricks again. And adding a bit of shadow underneath and also some, well, some indication that this is not a new building, but it's been there for a while. There is wear on the brick. Also going in from the bottom just to darken some parts up, not all of them. And then I'll go in with my darkest gray, looking on the bricks first. This is the entrance, so you can't really see anything inside the dove house. So adding a little more detail here to those bigger stones. There's a few of the smaller ones that need to be colored. And I need shadow underneath here. Now I can go in with my light gray and bring all of the layers a little more together. going on top of the wet paper to have some of my brown bleed a bit into the light grey. Now I can decide what color I want for the wooden parts of this dove house. So let me quickly add a little more of the grey here and think about that meanwhile for a second. I think a light brown would actually be a little better, because then it reflects the beehive color. But I will add maybe the lighter of these browns that I used for the table. I will probably add them on top. On these sections here, I do not go with the squiggly lines because I want to keep the look of a straight wooden plank, like so. So I can actually use those long strokes of marker, which I, in any other case, would hardly ever use. But for these wooden structures, it actually works quite well. I need a little brown on top. You see, by not covering up all of the wood with that darker brown marker, you can actually get quite the nice detail there and emphasize the shape of the dove tower. I want a little stronger gray here, so I'm adding another layer. There we go. It's my dark gray. Really want the doorway to be dark. And some of those openings for the doves to fly in. So you can always add a second layer, which I find helps a lot when it comes to darkening things up. There we go. And looking at the clock, I think this is a good time to end this video. I'm going to what did I want to say? Oh, I'm going to finish this mid-ground section at least in the next video. It might be that I will cover all the rest of the coloring page, like the first layer. And I hope you enjoyed watching along. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment section below. The blog post with all the pens that I used here will be up an hour after this video is published, so you can take a look. And if you have any questions, leave them here, leave them there, or did I even start my audio? No, it's paused. Great. Oh, I'm such a hero. Sorry for the bad audio from that camera up there. This one. I forgot to start my audio equipment. Anyway, rambling. I'm gonna see you next week with the next part of this video. Take good care, have fun, and thanks for watching. Bye!